Right now, you're replaying the scene in your head where the more you try to reach someone, the further they seem to drift away. It's a quiet evening, and the phone sits still, indifferent to your anticipation. You fired off another text, each ping more deafening in its echoing silence. Here's a hard fact. There is anecdotal evidence that many people pull away when they feel pursued too aggressively. Why does this happen? And why is it so universal? Why does your interest push them away? And why is this pattern so consistent that psychologists have given it a name? Let's start with the principle of least interest. This concept suggests that the person in a relationship who has the least interest in maintaining it holds the most power. Imagine two colleagues at work. One needs a favor, and it shows in their voice, their eyes. The other, unfazed. In an experimental setting, some studies suggest that appearing indifferent can sometimes increase the likelihood of getting requests fulfilled, simply because they seem to care less. In romantic pursuits, this dynamic magnifies. If you've ever dated, you've likely seen someone become more elusive just as your interest peaks. It's a balancing act. When one leans in, the other ticks back. But here's where it gets tricky. The principle falters when both parties are secure and communicative. In such relationships, mutual interest strengthens the bond, not weakens it, showing that the game changes dramatically based on emotional maturity. So if being too interested ibs away power, why do we fall into this trap so often? Now, consider the scarcity principle. This psychological effect suggests that when something becomes less available, its perceived value increases. Take a limited edition sneaker drop. The fewer pairs available, the more people clamor to get them. In social scenarios, when someone becomes less accessible, their value in your eyes can skyrocket by as much as 40%, according to consumer behavior studies. This principle plays out in friendships too. When a friend suddenly becomes busier, their time seems more precious, and you might find yourself vying for their attention more than ever before. But there's a catch. Some people find exclusivity off-putting rather than enticing, especially those who value transparency and open communication. For them, scarcity can feel manipulative, leading to a faster retreat rather than attraction. If scarcity creates desire, why do some people find it repelling? We should explore the concept of reactance theory. Essentially, when someone feels their freedom to choose is being limited, they react by wanting the forbidden option even more. Imagine being told you can't have a dessert right after dinner. Suddenly, that piece of cake becomes irresistible. Participants who were told they couldn't have a certain food rated it significantly higher in desirability than those who had no restrictions. In relationships, if you sense someone pulling away, the immediate urge is to close the distance. You text more, call more, try to schedule time together. Yet this often pushes the other person to assert their independence even further. But here's the twist. If both individuals mutually acknowledge and respect each other's autonomy, the need to rebel diminishes, and a healthier pursuit can emerge. If restrictions make us want more, why does this tactic break down in mature relationships? Let's explore the concept of intermittent reinforcement. This principle is why slot machines are addictively compelling. They don't reward consistently. Instead, they're unpredictable. You never know when you'll hit the jackpot. Studies show this type of reward schedule is far more effective at maintaining behavior than constant reinforcement. Consider an on-again, off-again relationship. The unpredictability of attention, sometimes they're all in, sometimes distant, mirrors the effect of a slot machine. You keep chasing, hoping for the next hit of attention. But this dynamic often collapses over time, as one party grows weary of the emotional roller coaster. When two people establish stable and predictable patterns of behavior, the need for constant validation through intermittent signals diminishes. If unpredictability hooks us, why do some relationships thrive on stability instead? Lastly, let's look at the Ben Franklin effect. It sounds counterintuitive, but when you do someone a favor, you often end up liking them more. Franklin himself noted that asking someone for a favor made them more inclined to do him another one. It's an odd quirk of human psychology. A study found that participants who did a small favor for someone were more likely to help them again, compared to those who received the favor first. So, why does this matter in terms of chasing? If someone is doing favors for you, they start investing in the relationship emotionally. The more they invest, the less likely they are to run. Yet, this effect has limits. If the favors feel coerced or unreciprocated, it can breed resentment instead of closeness. If doing favors builds connection, why do we still chase instead of inviting others to invest in us? Let's consider the investment model of commitment, which proposes that the resources, time, emotions, finances, invested into a relationship make individuals more committed to maintaining it. Consider someone who has spent 5 years in a relationship. The time invested makes it harder to leave, often leading to increased effort to rectify issues. A study found that people who invested significant resources into a relationship were more likely to stay, even when dissatisfied. This concept applies beyond romantic relationships. Employees who put years into a company are often reluctant to leave, despite better offers elsewhere, because their psychological and professional investments are too significant to abandon easily. Yet, there's a contradiction. Sometimes sunk costs lead to staying in toxic situations far longer than one should. Recognizing when commitment is driven by genuine desire, rather than mere investment, is crucial. If investment deepens commitment, how do we recognize when it's actually time to let go? Now, explore the liking gap, where people tend to underestimate how well liked they are by others after social interactions. In a series of experiments, participants consistently rated themselves as less likable than others rated them. This misjudgment often leads individuals to chase approval unnecessarily, misinterpreting neutral or even positive signals as lacking. Consider a professional setting, where after a meeting you might feel you didn't impress your colleagues. Yet surveys show that colleagues might have viewed your contributions more favorably than you thought. The contradiction here is that this gap can sometimes foster humility and self-improvement, but it can also lead to unwarranted pursuit of validation. By being aware of this bias, you can approach interactions with more confidence, reducing the need for constant affirmation. If we often underestimate our likability, how can we break the cycle of seeking unnecessary validation? We should examine the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where individuals with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. This effect can lead to scenarios where someone believes they are more charming or persuasive than they actually are, continuing to pursue others who aren't reciprocating interest. In studies, individuals with lower skills often overestimate their competence. This bias doesn't just affect personal relationships. In a workplace, an employee might push for a leadership role they're not ready for, leading to friction and potential disappointment. Yet the twist here is that as individuals gain experience, this overestimation diminishes. By seeking truthful feedback and being open to self-assessment, one can gain clarity, adjusting pursuits to align with reality rather than illusions. If overestimating our competence leads to misguided pursuits, how can we recalibrate our self-perception? Finally, consider the illusion of transparency, where individuals believe their emotions are more apparent to others than they truly are. Picture yourself at a party, convinced that everyone can see your nervousness. In reality, studies show that observers often detect fewer emotional cues than you think you're broadcasting. This disconnect can lead to behaviors where you chase reassurance or validation, assuming your feelings are obvious and need immediate addressing. In negotiations, this illusion can cause one to overshare or overcompensate, believing their anxiety or doubt is palpable. However, the irony is that a calm exterior often masks internal chaos more than we realize. Understanding this illusion allows you to better manage impressions without unnecessary pursuits of external validation. Knowing that others aren't as attuned to your inner turmoil can be liberating. If most of our inner thoughts remain hidden from others, how can this awareness change our need for external affirmation? The more you know about these psychological dynamics, the clearer it becomes. Silence and distance in that paused text conversation aren't just absence. They're a complex dance of interest, scarcity, freedom, unpredictability, and investment. In understanding these rules, you gain tools not to manipulate, but to recognize when you're being played, and to reclaim your own power by stepping back, observing, and responding with awareness. Sometimes, the most powerful move is no move at all.